Good morning. Today we're at the Montreal Museum of Contemporary Art. I'm here with curator Leslie Jostone to talk about the Brooklyn-Montreal Exchange. How are you?
I'm just fine. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So talk to us about this unique exhibition.
Okay, so within the context of Brooklyn, Montreal, we're presenting two exhibitions, one by Janet Biggs, who's based in Brooklyn, and the other by Aude Moreau, who is based in Montreal. Janet Biggs we're presenting 4 videos of hers, 3 of which were filmed in the Arctic. It's called the Arctic Trilogy. And she spent a number of weeks in the Arctic on expeditions on a 1920s schooner with a group of artists and scientists. And she often does her videos, she goes to the ends of the world, to amazing places. But her take on or the approach that she takes is to try and find very exemplary people, really interesting people that are living and working in those geographic, extremely difficult areas. And so in these 3 videos that are part of the Arctic Trilogy, she focuses on an ice cave explorer, a sort of tour adventurer kind of sports guy who's on a kayak, and a very beautiful blonde Norwegian coal miner. So we follow them through their very extreme work in this landscape.
Now, it's interesting that video has become part of the art world. How is that relationship?
Well, I think it has to do a lot with an interest in film, an interest in time, and an interest in telling stories, all of which are possible through video. It's just it's an extension for the photographic medium, which has been part of contemporary art for many years. And it's something that's totally immersive. You can work with sound, you work with editing, so that for visitors it can be a very enveloping. You can say lots of things with video, I think, through storytelling or political content. You can bring images from all around the world into a museum, which is not it often happens in video installation work.
So you ready to take us around to show us the videos?
Sure, we can walk through it, and maybe just to let you know, the 4th work that we're presenting of Janet Biggs was filmed in a live volcano. It's a young man who's a sulfur miner, and you see him carrying in baskets these big chunks of sulfur that he's gotten out of a completely toxic, very beautiful but very toxic landscape.
Later on in the show, we'll be back to see some more videos, so stay tuned. Okay, so right now we're in the Janet Biggs exhibition, and let's talk about the video on the big screen.
Okay, which is called Fade to White. It's the first of the 3 videos that she made, and in it you see a guy in a kayak, sort of exploring the estuaries of the Arctic. You see the boat that they were on, and it's intercut with scenes of a singer, a contralto, I'm not sure what that's called in English. Very effeminate-looking man who's singing this very beautiful area with a cello behind it. And so this sort of idea of contrasting a very quite macho, very adventurous-looking kayaker in a very extreme landscape with this very gentle, very still highly kind of coded sexually singer, provides a kind of counter narrative to the work. So it's a way for her to be in this landscape that could be like a National Geographic film, but by cutting it with this singer, she's creating a whole other narrative with it, as well as a sort of way for the visitor to be jolted in and out of 2 different spaces. And that technique she uses often in her films, either through music, performance, singers, or another kind of narrative that she's creating.
You want to check out Aude Moreau?
Sure.
Thank you. So let's talk about Aude Moreau, who is from Montreal.
Aude Moreau is from Montreal. She was born in France, and she often does site-specific installations and is slowly moving towards making films. This is called Reconstruction. It's a very long, slow traveling of the skyline of New York City. She's actually on one of the tourist boats that goes around the island. And she was initially doing research to do a project using the lights across a number of buildings on the New York skyline, but realized as she was editing and working with the material that she had filmed, that it was actually interesting in itself, and so she produced a film. And the film is actually circling slowly but very subtly around the ground zero site where they're rebuilding the office buildings, which is why it's called reconstruction. But what's interesting about the film is the way that this very familiar landscape, cityscape, becomes almost like a maquette or an architectural model.
All right, thank you for the tour.
All right.
If people want more information on the exhibition, do you have a website?
Yes, we do. It's www.macm.org.
Thank you very much.